The history of Ghana in 10 minutes. The Republic of Ghana is named after the medieval West African Ghana Empire.
Now, the history of the Ashanti.
The Ashanti Kingdom was a West African state that at its greatest extent ruled over an area that roughly corresponds to the modern-day country of Ghana.
One thing I must say that is very preeminent and outstanding, unique about the Ghanaians and the good people of Ghana is their deep-rootedness and knowledge to history, especially history that has to do with their origin, their existence, both in present and in past tense. Guys, if I don't know anything about Ghanaians, at least I think I have a knowledge and deep insight about them. Give me a round of applause in the comment section. You see, one thing is that if I am deeply in love with a person or people, I make sure I pay attention to everything that has to do with you. I will love and love you to the end. But if I'm not interested in you, talk from now till tomorrow. You are on your own. I will just focus like deaf and dumb and mind my business. That's one thing with me. But since ever I encountered, was caught deeply in love with the good people of Ghana. Guys, my life has never been the same. And in the same vein, in the same light, and in the same spirit, I bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the great history of the motherland Ghana. How it all started prior before our existence and up till date. And also the second clip of the great people of Ashanti Kingdom, their history and every details you need to know about them. I won't be talking much. I will leave you at this point to, ladies and gentlemen, to watch this video. Please, I beg of you till the end. Do not forget to encourage me by hitting on the like button. Just that's all I ask. Or if you have any other way to say well done, do that. I'm trying. It's not easy. They say when lizards from up for nobody praise and he go praise himself. Charlie, I trust you all. Thank you for your love already. You're doing too much. And as well, if you find this place interesting, do not forget to hit on the subscription button. Yes, and with all this being said, let's delve into this history.
The history of Ghana in 10 minutes. Welcome to the Explore and thanks for watching. As you all know, it is always a pleasure presenting to you the beautiful countries of Africa. In today's video, we are looking at the history of Ghana in 10 minutes. The Republic of Ghana is named after the medieval West African Ghana Empire. The empire became known in Europe and Arabia as the Ghana Empire after the title of its emperor, the Ghana. The empire appears to have broken up following the 1076 conquest by the Almoravid general Abu Bakr ibn Umar. A reduced kingdom continued to exist after Almoravid rule ended, and the kingdom was later incorporated into subsequent Sahelian empires, such as the Mali Empire, several centuries later. Geographically, the ancient Ghana Empire was approximately 800 kilometers north and west of the modern state of Ghana, and controlled territories in the area of the Senegal River and east towards the Niger rivers in modern Senegal, Mauritania, and Mali. Ghana is today known as the Gold Coast of Africa, and the history of this great African nation is an important part of its present and future. Hence, without much ado, here is the history of Ghana in 10 minutes. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our uploads. Little is known of the small African kingdoms in the region between the Tano and Volta rivers until the arrival of Europeans in the 15th century. Portuguese navigators walking their way down the West African coast reached this area in 1471 and built a fortress at Elmina in 1482. But others follow fast. As early as 1492, a French buccaneer marauding off the coast deprives a Portuguese ship of its precious cargo. That cargo was gold, and the Gold Coast becomes the European name for this part of Africa. The trade in gold with the Europeans makes possible the development in the early 17th century of Akwamo, the first African state to control an extensive part of the coast. During the 18th century, the dominance of Akwamo is replaced by that of a much powerful group, the Ashanti, with their capital inland at Kumasi. By this time, the British, Dutch, and Danes are the main European traders of this part of the coast, and the most valuable commodity for export was not gold but slaves. Trading slaves for muskets, among other Western commodities, the Ashanti acquire great local power. Their king, the Asante, enthroned on a traditional golden stool, holds sway over the entire central region of modern Ghana. But the Ashanti suffer a series of major blows between 1804 and 1814, when the Danes, British, and Dutch each in turn outlawed the slave trade. The resulting tension leads to warfare in the 1820s with the defeat of a British force in 1824 and again in the 1870s. In 1874, a British army briefly occupies Kumasi. Meanwhile, in the coastal regions, the British are gradually emerging as the main European power. The Danish fortresses, including the impressive Christiansborg Castle in Accra, are bought by the British government in 1850. The last Dutch merchants abandoned the coast in 1870. And in 1874, the southern regions are formally proclaimed a British colony under the name Gold Coast. but it takes another 3 decades before the Ashanti Kingdom and its dependencies in the north are finally brought under British control. In 1901, taking effect from the 1st of January 1902, Ashanti is declared a British Crown colony. The regions further north become at the same time the protectorate of the Northern Territories of the Gold Coast. The colonial years are relatively prosperous and untroubled. At first, little is done to involve the African population in the political processes of the colony. But in the years immediately after World War II, events move so fast that the Gold Coast becomes the first colony in sub-Saharan Africa to win its independence. The turning point is the return home in 1947 of Kwame Nkrumah after 12 years of study and radical politics in the USA and Britain. Nkrumah is invited back to the Gold Coast to become General Secretary of the United Gold Coast Convention, an organization campaigning for self-government. The UGCC has won the right in 1946 for an African majority in the colony's legislative assembly, but the fight is now on for a share in executive power. Nkrumah rapidly extends the movement's popular base, with the result that there are widespread riots in February 1948. The older UGCC leaders are alarmed by this and by their brief arrest with Nkrumah. A split within the movement leads to Nkrumah founding in June 1949 the Convention People's Party, committed to immediate self-government. From January 1950, Nkrumah organizes a campaign of non-violent protests and strikes, which lands him back in jail. But in the colony's first general election in February 1951, the CPP wins convincingly even in the absence of its leader. Nkrumah is released from prison to join the government, and in 1952, he becomes Prime Minister. During the years of preparation for independence, the neighboring British Togo votes in the 1956 plebiscite to merge with the Gold Coast. It is therefore a slightly extended territory which becomes independent in 1957 under Nkrumah's leadership. A new name of great resonance in African history is adopted, Ghana, although the ancient kingdom of that name was far to the north in present-day Mali. Nkrumah, well aware of his status at the head of the first West African nation to emerge from colonialism, dreams of leading the continent into a Marxist future. This requires a republic, which Ghana became in 1960 with Nkrumah as president for life. It also needs only one political party, the CPP. However, Nkrumah's authoritarian rule combined with a collapse in the nation's economy prompts a coup when the president is away in China in 1966 and he goes into exile in Guinea. It is the first of several such coups in Ghana's short history, but the nation remains true to the hope of democracy. In 4 decades, Ghana establishes as many new republics. A general election launching the Second Republic in 1969 brings to power Kofi Busia, a university professor with a long track record in Ghanaian politics as an opponent of Nkrumah. But he is unable to improve Ghana's economic performances, which had been weakened by low cocoa prices, and thus he is removed by military officers in 1972. For a few years from 1972, a military regime rules with repressive brutality under the successive leadership of 2 generals, Ignatius and Champong and Frederick Akufo. But by the year 1979, a group of younger officers have had enough. Led by Jerry Rawlings, a flight lieutenant in the Air Force, they take power and Champong and Akufo are executed while arrangements are put in place for speedy elections. Under international and domestic pressure for a return to democracy, the PNDC allowed the establishment of a 258-member consultative assembly made up of members representing geographic districts as well as established civic or business organizations. The assembly was charged to draw up a draft constitution to establish a 4th republic using PNDC proposals. The PNDC accepted the final product without revision and it was put to a national referendum on 28 April 1992, in which it received 92% approval. On the 18th of May 1992, the ban on party politics was lifted in preparation for multi-party elections. The PNDC and its supporters formed a new party, the National Democratic Congress, NDC, to contest the elections. Presidential elections were held on 3rd November and parliamentary elections on 29th December that year. Members of the opposition boycotted the parliamentary elections, however, which resulted in a 200-seat parliament with only 17 opposition party members and 2 independents. The constitution entered into force on 7 January 1993 to found the 4th Republic. On that day, Rawlings was inaugurated as president and members of the parliament swore their oaths of office. In 1996, the opposition fully contested the presidential and parliamentary elections, which were described as peaceful, free and transparent by domestic and international observers. Rawlings was re-elected with 57% of the popular vote. In addition, Rawlings' NDC party won 133 of the parliament's 200 seats, just 1 seat short of the 2/3 majority needed to amend the constitution, although the election returns of 2 parliamentary seats faced legal challenges. The Third Republic in 1979 lasts only 2 years before Rawlings and his fellow officers intervene again. After his second coup, Rawlings takes personal power, ruling through a provisional National Defense Council, which has a specific brief to organize a renewal of the nation's political and economic life, down to village level. Rawlings proves an efficient leader, winning international support for his economic policies, and the 1990s demonstrates that he has popular approval as well. In the prevailing fashion for multi-party democracy, Ghana holds elections in 1992 in preparation for its 4th Republic. Rawlings transforms his ruling council into a political party, the National Democratic Congress (NDC). The NDC wins nearly all seats in parliament and Rawlings is elected president, but only 29% of the electorate vote and most of the opposition parties boycott the election, hence the 1992 results can hardly be taken as a popular mandate. However, elections in 1996 at the end of the 4-year term are altogether more significant. There are other presidential candidates, at least one of them enjoying wide support. Yet Rawlings astonishes observers by winning 57% of the vote to his nearest rivals 40%, and the NDC retains its absolute majority in parliament. After 2 terms as an elected president, Rawlings stands down for the presidential election of December 2000. It is won by the opposition leader, John Kufuor. In the presidential election of 2000, Jerry Rawlings endorsed his vice president, John Atta Mills, as a candidate for the ruling NDC. John Kufuor stood for the New Patriotic Party (NPP), won the election and became the president on 7th January 2001. The vice president was Aliu Mahama. The presidential election of 2000 was viewed as free and fair. Kufuor won another term again in the presidential election in 2004. The presidency of Kufuor saw several social reforms, such as the reform in the system of national health insurance of Ghana in 2003. In 2005, saw the start of the Ghana School Feeding Program, in which a free hot meal per day was provided in public schools and kindergartens in the poorest areas. Although some projects were criticized as unfinished or unfunded, the progress of Ghana was noted internationally. President Kufuor soon gave up power in 2008. The ruling New Patriotic Party chose Nana Akufo-Addo, son of Edward Akufo-Addo, as their candidate, while National Democratic Congress's John Atta Mills stood for the 3rd time. After a runoff, John Atta Mills won the election. On 24th July 2012, Ghana suffered a shocking blow when their president died. Power was then given to his vice president, John Dramani Mahama. He chose the then governor of the Bank of Ghana, Kwesi Amisa-Athu, as his vice. The National Democratic Congress won the 2012 election, making John Mahama rule again, his 1st term. John Atta Mills was sworn in as president on 7th January 2009 in a peaceful transition after Kufuor was narrowly defeated. The Gold Coast is currently ruled by Nana Akufo-Addo, who is leading the beautiful African giant to new heights. There you have it, explorers. That was the history of Ghana in 10 minutes.
I'm sure you will find the subject matter as fascinating as I did. And now, the history of the Ashanti.
The Ashanti Kingdom was a West African state that at its greatest extent ruled over an area that roughly corresponds to the modern-day country of Ghana between the years of 1640 and 1902. The success of the Ashanti was due to their ability to rapidly adapt and innovate, including the early adoption of European firearms. The region that would become the Ashanti Empire was inhabited by several unique human populations since as early as 150,000 years before present, including the Sangoan culture, and later on, the Kintampo complex, a collection of diverse villages that are credited with spreading sedentary lifestyles to the region, where they bred livestock and farmed local crops. After they abandoned the region around 2,700 years before present, a new population would replace them, a population of people that are widely accepted by DNA analysis to be the ancestors of much of Ghana's modern-day population. The largest waves of migration are believed to have taken place between the 11th and 15th centuries CE. Among the largest of these populations are the Akan, who make up 48% of Ghana's modern-day population, as well as 41% of the population of the Ivory Coast. They founded a series of states throughout the medieval and pre-modern era, with the oldest one being the Bonomon Kingdom, which was located in the northern region of what is now modern-day Ghana, established by a group of migrants who fled from the Empire of Ghana, as it became increasingly consumed by Islamic influence. Not to be confused with the modern-day nation of Ghana, which exists in a totally different region than the ancient Empire of Ghana. From the Kingdom of Bonomon, several waves of Akan people branched out and formed smaller states in what would eventually become the Kwaman clan state. Established roughly around 1600 CE, the Kwaman clan state was a collection of small Akan communities, which slowly but surely became increasingly more centralized before eventually evolving into several small kingdoms. One of these states, known as Dinchira, founded in 1620, had the upper hand seeing as they controlled most of the region's gold mines and thus grew very wealthy through trade in the metal. With the power and wealth generated from these gold mines, the Dinchira established aggressive tributary status over the surrounding Akan states. One of these tributary states was Kumasiman, founded in 1640, the predecessor of the Ashanti Kingdom. Fed up with the oppression his kingdom faced from the Dinchira, King Osetutu summoned a spiritual leader, Anochi Okompo, to his palace to request assistance with a war that he planned to wage on the Dinchira. According to legend, Anochi Okompo received a golden stool from the heavens, given to him by Nyame, the supreme creator in the Akan religion, for use as a symbol of unity of all of the other surrounding Akan kingdoms that were under Dinchira dominion. After a confederation was established, Osetutu led several small detachments of his army to war against the Dinchira kingdom's forces, whom were led by the ruler Ntim Gyakari. Gyakari's forces managed to drive the small Ashanti forces out of the cities of Adunku, Abontim, and Aputugoya, probably butchered those names, which was Osetutu's plan all along, as their main body planned to catch Gyakari's forces off guard and defeat them in the Battle of Feyase. After decisively defeating the Dinchira and establishing their independence in 1701, the Ashanti reigned supreme as the largest and most powerful state to ever exist in the region until its eventual British rule. The Ashanti began trading with Europeans as early as the 15th century. After conquering the Achim, Akamu, Wassa, and other small coastal kingdoms, they gained a full monopoly on European goods between the 18th and 19th centuries, where they traded gold, ivory, and slaves to European merchants for Dane guns, becoming one of the few large West African states at the time to have an army completely equipped with firearms. The Fan Kingdom to the east, most famously known for their special corps of female warriors, still struggled against the Ashanti in numerous wars, despite also having an army fully equipped with firearms. The Kingdom of Achim to the south was also growing increasingly less tolerant of Ashanti rule, which the Ashanti king at the time, Coups, was largely criticized for ignoring. His aversion to the problem opened the door to the Achim and Dahomey establishing contact with one another, when they established an alliance which was also assisted by the Yoruba Kingdom of Oyo to the east, another powerful West African kingdom known for its cavalry, that existed in what is now modern-day Nigeria, who had conquered the Dahomey just 16 years prior in 1748, despite lacking firearms in its imperial army. This triple alliance of Oyo, Achim, and Dahomey warriors ambushed a large force of 12,000 Ashanti in 1764, inflicting a devastating and embarrassing defeat on them in the Battle of Atakpame. Coups was immediately deposed for his negligence and replaced by more youthful ruler Osei Kwadwo, who reigned between the years of 1764 and 1777. Determined to do better than his predecessor, he withdrew all interest from the Kingdom of Dahomey. He took the throne after the belligerent Triple Alliance was dismantled, and demonstrated excellent diplomacy with the Fanti and Denchira, while taking full advantage of rivalries between the Wassa and Achim kingdoms. The Fanti, on the other hand, remained suspicious of the Ashanti's true intentions, as it seemed their relations were fueled by ambitions to establish direct control over their coastal trade in European firearms. Relations between the Fanti states and the Ashanti were always complex and awkward, until it finally manifested into full-on hostility in the year 1806, when the Fanti safely harbored a group of fugitives accused by the Ashanti of robbing graves. The Fanti refused to hand them over, which led to the Ashanti-Fanti War, a long conflict between the two groups that finally ended in 1824, when Osei Bantu's forces conquered all Fanti states. The same year, the Ashanti also defeated a British force, as they had protectorate status over the Fanti, with the obligation to protect the interests of the Fanti from enemies. After the victory over the British, the two kingdoms signed a treaty of peace in 1831, which lasted for the next 30 years. During this time, the British were shocked at the sophistication of the Ashanti kingdom, and reacted with disbelief when traveler and writer Thomas Bowdish described indoor plumbing, vast road systems, and highly complex judiciary and governing systems. The Ashanti even had a system of hieroglyphics known as a Dinkra. In 1864, hostilities would once again reignite. A territorial dispute arose when the Ashanti took control of the coastal towns once more. A British force was dispatched 5 years later and reconquered the city of Elmina, located on the coast of the Ashanti territory. They followed up with another force in 1874, where Sir Garnet Wolseley led an army into Kumasi, the capital of Imperial Ashanti. After the capture of the city, both the Ashanti and the British had underestimated one another, and not just militarily. The British were surprised at the sophistication of Ashanti architecture, government, and infrastructure, while the Ashanti were surprised by the overwhelming technological superiority of the British. The British claimed these newly captured southern provinces of the Ashanti Kingdom for the British Gold Coast Colony. After the news of this defeat spread to the northern regions of the empire, numerous states began to rebel, leading to internal conflict and strife, allowing the British to make quick work of the Ashanti over the next few decades. After the Ashanti declined an official request of protectorate status by the British, they marched their army into the Ashanti Kingdom and assimilated them into a protectorate anyway, utilizing newly developed military technology such as repeating rifles, rocket artillery, and Gatling guns, and burning Kumasi to the ground in 1896. In 1902, one last valiant uprising was led by warrior queen Ya Asantewa, who sought to protect the Golden Stool. As the British knew of its significance and sought to capture it as a means of crushing the Ashanti people's sense of unity once and for all. Despite heavy casualties on both sides, she was successful in protecting the stool, which can still be observed in Ghana today. However, this war resulted in the full subjugation of the Kingdom of Ashanti in the British Gold Coast. In 1935, the Ashanti Kingdom was re-established where it still exists to present day on a subnational level in modern-day Ghana.
Welcome back. This was indeed a great one. This was indeed amazing, interesting, and mind-blowing. What? Guys, I've learned and I'll continue to learn just like you are. Now tell me, what have you learned today? What interests you the most? Did you really know about most of these things we have been shown here? Let me know in the comment section. I don't want to be doing much of the talking because the commentary enough has done more than an explanation. So tell me what you think. And at this point, subtle reminder, if you like this video again, hit on the like button. It helps me so much to keep smiling. It shows me how much you care and love the great content I put up here. I ask for nothing but but more. And if there's any way or anything whatsoever you have as a contribution, or you want me to add up and spice up, do not forget to tell me respectfully and constructively, and I will gladly oblige. Exactly. But thank you so much for watching. If you did up till this point, I truly and deeply appreciate. Exactly, guys. Keeping it real, happy, safe, and blessed. And I, the ambassador one of the motherland, knowing what she knows how to do best. We'll see you in my next one. But for now, ciao, ciao. Mwah.